thinking is one of the 3 competencies used to answer the question, do I have the 3 C's? It's actually the most important competency also. And that's not because I say so. That's what recruiters say. Recruiters point to critical thinking as being the most important foundational competency, and they also say that it's the competency that's the most difficult to find in candidates. Now, critical thinking is often used synonymously with problem solving, but there's a difference. Critical thinking is the process and problem solving is the outcome. So you use critical thinking to solve problems. And from a recruiter standpoint, they're more interested in your process than they are in your outcomes because problems change, outcomes change. But you can use a similar process to solve a whole host of different types of problems. Now, critical thinking can be broken down into 5 sub-competencies. Problem identification, data analysis, managing risk, empathy, and creativity. I think the best way to talk about critical thinking is to start with a real-world problem. Something that's frustrating to everyone, something that most people have some level of exposure to. I personally like to start with the TSA or security line issue that you find in airports. Is the problem that it could take 15 to 20 minutes to get through the line? Or is the problem that the rules change no matter what airport you go to? Depending on what problem you're trying to solve, you'll probably come to a different solution. Now, there are many different ways to identify that core problem. One that I like and I'm familiar with is the 5 whys, where you sequence ask why to get to the core of the problem.
Why?
I just figured my life would come together on its own. But then I met your mom, and you came along, so now I work at the muffler shop.
Why?
Well, it's too late for me to pursue a career now, and since your mom has a job with benefits, I stay home and I take care of you, because what I make is pretty much just a joke.
Why?
Well, the service economy replaced manufacturing.
You can see how that's a very useful tool, and that process is something that recruiters really want to understand. How do you disaggregate a problem to get to that critical core issue? Now, the next phase in solving problems is data analysis. Now, if I were introducing this concept to you when I graduated from college, I probably wouldn't lead with data analysis. It's not that there wasn't data, it's just that there's so much more data today. I mean, your phone is probably recording at least 5 pieces of data right now and pushing it into the cloud. Where you are, where you've been, who you talked to, what your last purchase was, all of that information is constantly being captured from millions, even billions of people every day. So it's not an issue of, is there enough data? The issue is, how do you analyze the data that you have? So let's take our TSA example, right? There's plenty of data around that problem. There's information about how many people go through the TSA daily, about the reasons that they're stopped, how many TSA people are on staff on a regular basis. All of that information and all of that data is there. It's what can you do with that data? How can you translate that data? How can you manipulate that data and come up with interesting insights? I know what you're thinking. Does that require math? Well, the answer is yes. Now, maybe you're saying that, look, I want to be a marketer, or I want to be a journalist, or I want to go into government. It doesn't matter. The language of today is data analysis. I know plenty of people are out there telling you that you need to learn how to code, how coding is the language of the 21st century. I disagree. Data analysis is the language of the 21st century. So if you want to be at the top of your game, you're going to need to be able to manipulate that data using some sort of mathematical analysis, regardless of industry or job function that you choose. I was once asked in an interview what was the riskiest thing I'd ever done. Now, the funny thing about that is I just returned from a trip from the Greek islands with a few of my friends. And I did have an incident where I almost fell off a ferry boat in the middle of the Mediterranean. I didn't think that's what he was looking for. But even if he had been amused by that story, it really wouldn't be addressing risk. That's more uncertainty. And the difference between risk and uncertainty is uncertainty can't really be measured, and risk can be measured. Risk is all about probabilities. So what organizations are trying to understand is, how do you, one, identify the probabilities, and then two, how do you make decisions from those probabilities? Now, once again, let's talk about our TSA problem. Right? What's the risk that they're trying to mitigate? Well, the biggest risk is that somebody could get through security line with a weapon and cause harm to people. So in your analysis of this problem, you should be trying to figure out what the probabilities are of somebody getting through, and what the probabilities are if they get through that they could cause catastrophic or some degree of risk. You could use tools like expected value to figure that out. Now, that's very valuable that you can understand how to do that type of analysis. But it's equally important that how you make decisions from that analysis. You might step back and say, well, we're willing to take some degree of risk in our new process. Or you might say, we can't afford to take any risk. This is an airport. And so that whole process of risk and management and identification is a key skill that organizations are looking for and that recruiters are screening for in the process. You might be wondering why empathy is a form of critical thinking. Well, you actually first might be wondering what the heck empathy really is. Our good friend Merriam-Webster describes empathy as the act of understanding, being aware of, and being sensitive to the feelings, thoughts, and experiences of others. Now, why is that important? Because we don't live and solve problems in a vacuum. Our problems and our solutions affect people and are affected by people. So organizations want to make sure that when you're solving a problem, you're taking into account those other actors. Let's take our TSA problem for an example. We may come up with a truly elegant solution, but does that solution take into account elderly people in wheelchairs, or parents with young children, or TSA workers that may not speak English very well? All of those things are critically important in crafting the best solution. So as you're talking about your problem solving, make sure that you're emphasizing how you have consumed and digested and thought about individuals and actors that may have very different backgrounds and very different characteristics than yourself. Creativity comes in all different shapes and sizes. I mean, you may be a musician or an artist or even an entrepreneur. And what companies are really looking for are people that can bring new ideas, new thought, innovative ways to solve a problem. Now, there are plenty of great critical thinkers out there, but that doesn't mean they're bringing innovation. If you are truly one of those people that can bring a new concept, you will be highly valued in these organizations. Now back to our TSA problem. I have a few creative solutions here. I'm not ready to share them with you though. I still need to do a little work on my problem identification, my risk management, and of course, my empathy.